Welcome to a new episode of Identity Capital from the heart of Silicon Valley. From the Multiverse by Code Studios, this is Ahmed AlTammar, and my guest today is the serial Saudi entrepreneur Osama Alraee. We had a great talk, and we got to explore his wonderful journey all the way from Misk Foundation to Lendo. Hey Osama, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Anytime, man.
I appreciate it. We are at the Multiverse by Code at the heart of Silicon Valley. This episode is going to be about tech, and you have a great story, and I'm sure our audience are looking forward to hear it. As all shows, I'll start with a quote. أقول لمن لا يريد أن يحلم ألا يتفاوض معنا ولا يأتي إلى أبوابنا فقط نحن نرحب بالحالمين الذين يريدون صنع عالم جديد. لدينا عدد كبير حريصون على العمل معهم ونرحب بأي شريك جديد. سمو سيدي ولي العهد محمد بن سلمان. As all episodes, I start the first question about, you grew up in Riyadh. How was growing up in Riyadh for Osama, and what are the highlights of growing up, your family terms and whatnot?
So, I was born and raised in Riyadh. Originally, my family is from Mecca, but we used to go there in summers. But most of my life, I was in Riyadh. We grew up in a middle class, like a family business, like many other businesses and families in Saudi Arabia, focused on building their family business. I remember growing up, I was quite integrated with the family business. I used to go to the factory. It's my uncle's factory in jewelry business, and I used to go there, play bicycle, do my shenanigans. Mm-hmm. But also, it gave me a lot of early exposure to technology. So I remember in 93, 94, we had computers. I used to go there, learn on DOS, play video games.
And this was like your age was below 10, right?
Yeah. I was 93. I was like 7? 6 7 years old. So yeah, amazing. So I was very young. I used to go there, but the good thing was I was lucky that at that time to have access to computers was very rare in Riyadh, and so going there, playing with DOS, learning a lot of things. Then 95, the Windows came out.
Revolutionary at that time. Yeah. Compared to DOS.
And I learned. I used to do a lot of painting on the paint. I also screwed up a lot of computers in the factory.
Wow.
So I had to, and then we had this guy, the IT support, who used to fix all this. And I started observing what he does to fix them.
Oh, so you ruin them on purpose so you can see how you fix them?
Not necessarily on purpose. I was kid being a kid.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I used to see, okay, how he's, and I take notes how he's fixing them, so I can learn myself to fix them. And I think in 96, my dad got the computer to home. And I think 96, 97, I got the computer at home. And that was a revolutionary, because then I could spend hours and hours on the computer doing a lot of different things. 98, I traveled to Canada and US and Canada to my cousins, and I got exposure to internet first time in my life. And I remember there was a neighborhood library that I used to go there and then just spend hours and hours on internet, mainly reading comic books, X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. And then they had a free printer, so I used to print the comic books, so many of them. And then once I came back, I started selling them in the school.
That's amazing. Entrepreneur from a young age.
Yeah. Also, then I got exposure to anime. I used to watch a lot of anime, download them. I'd have to fix a lot of issues, right? Internet can get disconnected. How do you fix a file that get encrypted and during the download? So I learned a lot of like deep tech at the time, played a lot of video games. And then I had, at my school, we didn't had, I think later, maybe 2003, 4, we got computers in our school. And I remember I had a very encouraging teachers, and one of them was a biology teacher. And he told me, like, Osama, you're really good at computers. Why don't you give us a class as teachers how to fix a computer? And I found that very encouraging and empowered. And so I come on the weekend, I bring my computer, I show them how to break down all the hardware, how to put it back, how to format a PC, how to put in antivirus, how to fix issues. So I did spend like a couple of classes on the weekends for the professors, for the teachers and the other kids as well. So I became really good, learned at that time Visual Basic as a programming language. and then started developing different aspects into it. So I think that was I remember a childhood I had, a very happy childhood. We did traveled a lot. We were one of the lucky ones. We traveled a lot to Europe, US, Canada. Also within Saudi, we used to go to Makkah, Medina a lot. So I had a quite exposure to the world at the early age, different cultures. Didn't understand what's going on all the time, but at least had some different
Exposure, yeah.
exposure.
Even if you don't remember as a child, I think traveling add a different perspective to your inner العقل الباطن. At a certain point you
Unconscious
realize,
mind, yeah.
unconscious mind, you feel like all this exposure give you a better understanding of how teams work because of diversity, what different aspects of different countries can collaborate on. And
Yeah, and I mean, just not that, but it was different things. I remember like coming out of airport, seeing a lot of women driving. I was like, oh, we don't have women driving in Saudi. Why women are driving? Going to McDonald's and then you have to clean up after yourself. Like
yeah.
so we would just eat and go away, and then the server was saying, no, you have to clean up
Yeah,
yourself,
clean
right?
yourself,
So
yeah.
we just had to learn these things, where it was different than our culture. Also, I got exposure to work. So I started working during summer in middle school. So I started in the factory. I was doing, first of all, I was in packaging. So I was doing jewelry packaging to small boxes, earrings, bracelets, these kind of things. So went into packaging.
so that was what, age 12, 13?
I think, yeah, 12, 13.
12,
Yeah,
13.
so I started back office, and then I think then I went to silver shops and the retail shops. So I used to Thimiri, and we used to have on the weekends buses come from the American compounds. So there was an army, and then they used to come on the weekend and they buy silver. Saudis don't buy silver as much,
Yeah.
but the Americans and the Western, they used to come, and I used to sell it to them, practice my English with them, and negotiate, haggle. So I learned a lot of these skills early on. Of course, also sell to other people who used to come to our shop in Thimiri market. But that I developed a lot of sales skills from that age. Learned about incentives, targets, sales, all these kind of aspects. And then as I grew older, I think in high school, then I went to a wholesale shop where we used to sell gold chains and gold kilos, biscuits, like biscuits of kilos, to other jewelry shops. So we're a wholesale business, and it's a lot of cash business. So we learned about integrity, about safety. Like we had millions of reals every day, all in cash. And so we had to close the shop at 10 p.m. Then we count cash until like 11, maybe an hour, counting cash, make sure it matches invoices. Then we take it, we put it, and if anything is missing, we have to like inspect why it's missing.
And that's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. And then next day morning, we go to the bank, deposit all the cash. So it was like these kind of lessons learned I had a lot early on. And then B2B business, dealing with wholesalers was different than dealing with retail. In silver shop here was mainly we're dealing with other people. They negotiate much harder. But in gold, the margins are very, very small. So there was like, we had a screen that shows a live gold prices. So we used to buy, I remember, like our margin in each kilo of gold was maybe 300 to 800 real. So on average, 500 real, that was the margin.
For like 1 kilo.
For like 1 kilo. And 1 kilo was
that is not a lot.
That's not a lot. And 1 kilo was like 35,000, 37,000 real. So, 37,000 real, you're just making 500 real of a margin.
But that's the wholesale market, I
But
guess.
that's a wholesale market. But so in volume, you can see like in one day we would sell 30, 40, 50 kilos. So you see like you sold millions, but your margins are very, very small. And that's something new to me. Like, how come like, oh, we have a lot of money, but actually we didn't make a lot of money. So it's a high volume business, but the margins are very, very thin. And that's completely, I didn't understand that concept at that time. I had to learn it later on, but I remember reflecting back to those days, how it used to be. And the jewelry market was all based on trust and integrity. So it's all about reputation. Who has the reputation? So the way we designed, like my grandfather and my uncles had a huge reputation in the market of being people with high integrity. Our gold is always pure, nothing is mixed. We had our own labs as well, but people don't have labs. So it always was best and beyond, and then you build that reputation, right? So the name, the reputation means a lot in such a market where you don't have a lot of regulations, you don't have a lot of inspectors coming in inspecting things. So it's all about integrity and a reputation. And I learned early on that reputation means something. And when people will come and say, "Oh, you're son of that person in the gold market," it's okay. That means you have to uphold certain values and standards.
Yeah.
You cannot go below them. So this is some of the things that I had to learn at that age.
So it was not only a lesson through actually work ethics and being on time, learning to be resilient, but also there was values involved. So it kind of infused both the ethical values, work values, and you learn to be showing up on time, to be responsible at a young age. I always think of how introducing a certain concept at a young age, what is the difference between that? If, let's say, you learned resilience at age 14, or you stayed and lived with your parents and you never had a job, and in the US, people get jobs at 14 and 15.
Yeah,
But when you get it at 21, what is the difference, you think?
I think in Saudi it's not very common people do.
It's not very common, correct.
Maybe now and maybe, but even now not that as much. But at that time it was extremely rare for someone to go and work at that age, especially in Riyadh. I think in Mecca, because we're always have visitors, so we are used to go and do business and work at early ages. But in other cities, I'm not sure. Like each city has their own dynamics.
I think in the eastern region we have tradesmen. So you see, like for me, I started working when I was 13.
Yeah.
I started working with my dad, and then at age 14, I actually went to another city, Jubail Industrial City.
Yeah.
And I worked like 8 to 6 jobs.
So a lot of people did. I mean, it depends on the city. So like in farm-based cities, a lot of young people work in the farm. So it was very different. But usually, as you know, like at that time, I think 80-90% of Saudis worked in government. So their kids that don't.
Sure. It was a different time then.
It was a different time then.
Yeah.
And so I think the difference between learning at that age or later, I think it just builds maturity much faster.
I agree.
And responsibility, like you being responsible. I think that's really like built. And also discipline. I don't think I'm the most disciplined person. I don't believe in that, but it did build some discipline. I remember like not just the discipline, but also financial literacy.
Yeah.
So I remember like I got my first paycheck. I came back home. I bought a gift for my mom. Like, Mom, I want to give you a gift for my own paycheck, right? So those like things that I learned early on how to manage such a thing. So I didn't go and spend it all, but I also didn't kept everything.
Yeah.
So I have to like, okay, I'm gonna buy a gift for my mom. I'm gonna buy a gift for my younger brother. And I'm gonna buy some video games so I can play or upgrade my PC. So that's like, okay, so the way I thought about it was very different.
Amazing. Now, going to the next stage in life. So how was your experience in public school or private school you went to? How was your experience in school? Major challenges, stories you might share with us?
Yeah, so I was a very, generally speaking, very shy person, very introvert. I changed a lot in that perspective. I'm way more extrovert now. But early on, I remember I was a very introverted person. And so my mom used to give me chocolate so I can take it to school and give it to their kids so they become my friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I became like, so I eventually had some really good friends in late early school, like in grade 4 or 5, I think I started making some friends who stayed lifelong friends. But it was a close net of friends, like not a lot of 4 or 5 people. That's it. That I used to hang out a lot during school or after school, and we were very competitive. I was very nerdy. I liked to read a lot. I was like to get high grades, and we were very competitive on grades. So one time my friend would get the first place, I would get second or third, and then next time I want to get the first place. So it was very competitive, and we each of us has different passions about. So I had a friend who was he loves poetry. He used to write poetry. I was really bad at that. I was more into computers. And then another friend who likes math. His dad was a math teacher, so like I was really into math, and we used to debate in a lot of things. Another friend, his dad was a doctor. So he was into medicine, biology. So we had different we were quite different, but also but we were passionate about education and different focus areas. I didn't have someone else who was really good in computers with me, so everybody had different angle that we used to hang out together. But yeah, that's how I remember I had really good teachers, really good teachers, that really focused on education. I think I was lucky. I was in private schools, but I was very lucky to have blessed with good teachers. I remember, I think in high school, like last year, I didn't have a lot of tutors in my life. Like I had some tutorship in English, so I can improve my English, but also in Quran, so I was to memorize. And then I think in high school I was struggling with some calculus, and then I asked my teacher if he can come to my home and do tutoring for me, and he got very upset. He said, "So are you not understanding in the class? And you're one of my best students." I said, "Look, I still, some concepts I don't get it that well." And so he came to my house and we started, and he refused to take any money. He said, "I failed you because I wasn't teaching you that well in the class. So I failed you. I feel responsible to teach you. I don't want any money." And then I tried a lot, and I went to my dad. It's like, "Okay, he's coming at my home teaching me. I need to pay him something." And then he told me, "Okay, there's other means of payment, so you can buy him something he really needs, or gift or something else." So I thought about, okay, and then compensate him in a different manner.
That's good.
So, but I remember like I was blessed in such with the teachers at that time. And yeah, so that's chapter. And then I got one of the top grades in the country when it got high school. At that time was standardized high school exams across the whole country.
Yeah, is this still the same?
No, it's not anymore. I think 3 years after I graduated,
they ended
that. But it was very tough exams. I remember it was
yes, I remember that.
So I got really good scores. I was accepted in all sorts of scholarship, Aramco, Sabic, also King Abdullah scholarship to go abroad. But I really wanted to stay close to home. I was young. I wanted to not go far away that early, but I always had in my mind that I'm going to do masters abroad at some point later in the life.
Okay.
So I will go abroad, but not at this age, at the age of 18. I decided to go KFPM.
At that time, KFPM was the top school.
Was the top school.
I think the only school in Saudi that teaches in English too, right?
No, I think others. Yeah, maybe right. At that time,
I think only KFPM. Yeah.
So, but so I locally I only applied to one university. That's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I said like if I didn't get accepted in KFPM, I will not stay in the country.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for a scholarship. So I only applied to one university and I got in.
You got it. Okay.
And then there was my mom wanted me to go into business. My dad said do whatever you like. I wanted to do computer science, software engineering, and then I thought, okay, what can I do that is? But I also knew that I wanted to finish my undergrad. I'm going to join my family business, like so many of my older cousins. So I thought maybe I'll do something I'm passionate about, which is computer science. But I want to also stay closer to business as well. So I did information systems or management information systems. MIS.
Yeah.
But I did all my electives or minor in software engineering. So I did all my electives in software because that was
what you liked. Okay.
I like my passionate about.
Amazing. Now at KFUPM, for those who don't know, there's traditions, there is Aurea, and when you graduate to the mountain, which is because the campus was on top of a mountain, they greet you and they take you to the mountain. How was KFUPM? I mean, the clubs, the library, just KFUPM life at that time.
So it was a completely different lifestyle because I was living on campus and we used to live in extremely old housing.
The lines.
The lines. So it was built in 65, made out of stones. And
Funny story, my grandfather used to work for Aramco. He lived in these lines.
Oh,
exactly.
So we lived in that line. It was a shock to me.
Yeah.
Like you're living in something made out of stones and not cement and modern housing. So that was my first shock. It was really a shock. And then I have to live with another roommate
that you don't know. But especially when you come as an orientation, they only put you in the lines because there was buildings.
But that was that was only for masters.
Masters
So and then they built it. So I moved to new buildings.
Oh, so you did, okay.
But after 2 years of stay.
Was that next to the squash playground, or like 91, 92, 93, the long buildings in the back?
So it was next to 91, 92, 93,
Okay.
and then built across it. I think it was, my building was 303. I forgot. I think so. I forgot maybe what it was now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was that was my first shock on the campus
building.
life, and then being recruited by so many different clubs. So I was recruited by, and they were headhunting at that time. I was recruited by Scouts. So I was Jawala. I was at Scouts.
Okay, I know that.
And it was good because they built a community that I got in early on. So I passed the English and math, and so I went directly to second half of the English and math of ORIA. So I skipped one semester, and then and started my college a bit early than other. So I was always in between. Like I wasn't with my class, which is 2.6, and so I was taking most of my class with 2.5. So because I was in at fast track and in my undergrad, I had a great time. I learned a lot. My focus was at that time to get 4.0 GPA. I cared more of my GPA than I cared about
the experiences.
Learning or so. And then so there were courses like, okay, this course I really care about it. I want to learn everything about it. And then there was courses I really don't care about this course, and I just want to get a good grade.
Okay.
So I was prioritize my efforts. You know, when I'm one of those people who's like, you know, lazy smart people. So I'll do the bare minimum to get the A plus in the as a grade, and then just move on.
You know, Bill Gates once talked about people like you. He said, I want to hire those people, and his reasoning is they will find the easiest way in terms of solution for any problem, because it requires less time to perform, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what I did at the time, so I did a Excel GPA like transcript and simulated different like semesters, how I'm gonna get, what courses I'm gonna take, what's gonna be my graduation GPA, and how I designed all of that. And then each course I had the syllabus and I had the grades. And so what I did, like, okay, if I did great in this quiz and the next quiz, and I did X amount of homeworks, then I don't need to do other homeworks because I got enough grades to become A plus, so I stopped doing homework. It was like I calculated everything on Excel, so that was like the way I was doing bare minimum to get always A plus. I didn't graduate with 4.0. I graduated with 3.9798. I remember.
Just still, if you round it up.
Round it up. But I also had some fun. I did so I created my own club. First club it was Toastmasters. So it was first newly created in the university. It was all about public speaking. I also did a startup.
A startup in KVBM.
Yeah, I did a startup.
Interesting. Tell
At
me
that
more.
time, we didn't know it. It's called startup. So we wanted to do a business with three of my co-founders or friends.
Which all are students.
Which all are students, all are top like GPA students. So I had two friends who were industrial engineers and one electric engineer.
Okay.
And the idea was, we called it room shopping. And the idea was what today is DoorDash and food delivery. We were doing quick commerce or what do you call grocery delivery. So we only had one convenience store on campus.
If I remember, العريقي.
Yes. جنب المحروقات.
He had the monopoly, and there was no stores around. I remember that.
So there was nobody else. It closes at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Because it has monopoly, the prices was high.
Yeah.
The SKUs was very low, and the issue, because we had to buy water and tea and sugar and other things, and if you forgot to buy it by 10 p.m. you don't have water all night, so you have to then go to your parking, go drive to Panda, and then you lose your parking spot. There's not enough parking spots, and when you come back, then you have to park somewhere far away, carry the water, heavy water, come back to your room. So it's extremely inconvenient. So the way we designed the online e-commerce, and we bought a car, we hired staff, we did a partnership with Panda, we installed our own laptop with internet with a printer at Panda.
At Panda. So you guys negotiated with Panda.
Yeah, and they were
amazing.
They were very helpful. There was a British guy who was the regional head, and he was really supportive of our entrepreneurship.
What year is that?
It was 2009.
Wow. Okay.
And then we asked him, look, we want to interview some staff, and they gave us a room at Panda.
Amazing.
And we did like we went to Thigba and we put posters, looking driver, we're looking like just, and then people came, we did interviews, we hired.
Wow. Okay.
And then and then we bought a car. My dad supported me at that time. Also, I got some money from my friends. We bought a car. What happened afterwards? So we started. My industrial friend, they did a code to do route optimization.
Wow.
And then we had some buildings had elevators. So we brought some cart, and we used to use the lock for like the bicycle lock. They would lock the cart at the building.
Every building had a cart.
Yeah.
Logistics, man. Like
those who had elevators, we had. And then the driver will come and they will put all the stuff in the cart, and then we'll go floor by floor.
There was this much traffic.
We did a shift based, right? So we had 3 shifts a day, and then you order it, you get in the next shift. And then we did like marketing on bulletin, like online bulletins or also physical bulletins. We get there, like you can order groceries online.
That's amazing.
And we had to figure out the pricing. We had to figure out a lot of different aspects.
Just groceries, or it was like restaurant?
Just groceries.
Just groceries.
So our idea was like, let's start with the student campus. That's where we were going to start. But the big bet was we're going to go to faculty campus, because that's where the money is. Because faculty also had one convenience store as well, and we thought, okay, faculty has campus, so it's next to, like, a little bit far away from the student campus, but they have a lot of money, so it's like, okay.
I remember that by the hospisptal.
By the hospital, by the clinic, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna expand. That was our expansion plan. Oh, naive.
Another geolocation.
So that was like, that's what we knew at that time.
Yeah.
And then 3 months in, we got shut down by the university.
Oh no! What happened?
So it took us 2 months to figure out what happened, why they shut us down, and then we met all with the provost, with the president of the university.
Oh, Dr. Khalid Sultan.
Dr. Khalid Sultan. And he told us, man, what you're doing is illegal. The staff that we hired was not under our sponsorship, and they were worried, like, what if they came and stole on campus, and then so you will be involved, the police will be involved, he will be involved, his sponsor will be involved. So there will be 5 parties involved to solve that crime. And we told him, look, like, we are a startup, like, we don't have a lot of money. If the model proves, then okay, we will put more money and we will get into our sponsorship. But today we want to do it in the cheapest way possible. And this concept, we didn't know that. Nobody taught us this concept. It was naturally like, okay, it makes sense to preserve money. Like, we don't want to spend a lot of money on this. And then he said, okay, you can pilot it another 3 months or something. I don't remember what happened, but we ended up closing the whole thing. We sold the car off. We finally got some, whatever we can, recoup some of our investments back. We got that and we shut it off. So that was...
what a journey. What a journey. Now, going back, how many months does it take y'all to build the MVP?
It took us, I think, 4 months to build it, with the partnership, with the pricing. So we had
with
to
the website.
With the website, we had to go. We had, I think, 1,000 items. So we had to go to the Panda, take picture of 1,000 items, Photoshop them to make it look nice.
Wow.
Panda did not give us pricing, so we had to manually write the pricing of all the products. We had to do, and then they told us you cannot take the pricing, so we had to build a code. So we'd say, okay, 10 Riyal is A1 something. So we wrote it in code and decrypted it, because they were not allowing us to go take the pricing off the shelf. It was prohibited. We told them, guys, at least give us the pricing.
Yeah, how are we selling?
So we had to do everything manually. We took pictures, Photoshop, pricing. It took us 3-4 months until we got everything. We ran it for 3 months and then we shut down.
So total 7 months.
So 7 months. Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure that was... I mean, you already were in MIS. You took a lot of software, but this was the start, because today at Lendo, it is almost, if you look, how many years between those? Like 15? 2010 to 2025, 24?
Yeah, something like
so
10, 11, 10 to 12 years. Yeah.
10 to 12 years, and what you do today is absolutely amazing. So before we start your first job, I want to tell the audience, what do you do today? So they have an idea of what's going to come through this journey. So what is Lendo? What do you guys do? And what was the last round? How much you guys raised?
So Lendo is a fintech in alternative lending space. We're a Sharia compliant financing solution in Saudi Arabia. We finance small and medium businesses for their invoices or receivables that they have for large corporate. That money for that in financing or loans that for the SMEs doesn't come from our capital. We post that loans on our platform, and then any retail, any Saudi citizen, resident, family offices, banks, they come and fund these loans, and they earn the profit or interest on these loans. We are a marketplace, so we take margins from both the lender and the borrower. That's what we do. What we have financed yesterday. We closed 2 billion riyal since inception. So we have financed more than 600 million dollars of lending.
So you finance, meaning all the amount of money you give to the business is
Yes.
600.
Yeah, 500 something million dollars. Yeah, 2 billion riyal.
2 billion riyal.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
With less than 1% default rate, and our average annual returns to our investors is 15% annually.
What was the last round you've raised?
We did a $28 million Series B round in December.
$20 million Series B.
$28 million. Yeah.
Who was your lead investor?
It was Sanabil.
Sanabil,
It's
okay.
a fully owned subsidiary of PIF.
Interesting. So Sanabil was a lead investor, and were they the lead since like pre-seed or so?
No, so we had seed was led by Impact 46.
Okay.
A was led by Diraya.
And Diraya, who's
Diraya is another VC. There's the largest brokerage, stock brokerage in Saudi Arabia.
okay.
So they have a VC arm, Diraya, that came to they led our Series A, and then Series B was led by Sanabil, which is PIF.
Yeah. So I asked that question because I want to for entrepreneurs who are out there, why should you pick a lead investor that adds value or not, and what's the difference between each one of them? Not necessarily by name, but in general, like why should I pick this lead investor? Is that actually important if I pick the right lead investor? How do they add value? And should I just sometimes take the money, not the expertise? I know the market and the GCC in general is considered young relative to the US market.
Yeah.
But when we talk about this, it's very important for entrepreneurs to actually select investors who's going to help them. And I just want to hear your story.
Yeah, so from Lendo's perspective, what we did basically, both my co-founder and I, we don't come from financial services. So it's a fintech, it's financial services, it is regulated. And so the way we thought about it, that who can help us in the seed, who can help us the most to get the license, who can get the businesses, borrowers,
Okay.
get us some money from the investor side. It's a marketplace. You need a snowball to roll, right? You need
Yes.
some borrowers, you need some investors to build it. So this is what our focus was at the early stage. So we got Diraya participated, Sidra participated. Both were extremely helpful in our seed round. They helped us with licensing. They helped us with getting businesses, the borrowers, investors. So that was really, really helpful, both with Diraya and Sidra in our seed round. And that's what we focused. And we needed local, right? We wanted to go local because it's very local experience that we needed.
So that was the chasm you needed to cross.
Yes.
Okay.
And then with A, both of them followed on, Diraya and Sidra, and with Shuruk. And so the idea was, who can help us at A, who will be able to help us with B? Because most seed VCs, they do A, but not A to B's. They do B rounds. So I needed investor who can do A and then can either lead our B or join or help me bring B investors. That was important. And then second aspect was, at that time, what we were focusing on is speed. Who can close us fast, so we can go back and focus on our business. With Series B, it was more about, we want to go IPO, we want to do M&A, we want to expand into new products, we want to expand our team. Who can help us in these areas of market expansion, IPO readiness, hiring C-suite, who can help us in these areas.
That's why Diraya was a choice.
For B or for A?
For A.
For A, Diraya, A, because we got the license. The idea was because fintechs are extremely regulated, we needed high governance. So
Okay.
Diraya, being also a financial
Yes.
sector and also Sidra, they helped us a lot with the governance at that point. So
Interesting.
setting up the board, the audit committee, the internal audit, external audit, a lot of governance that we required from the regulator. They helped us a lot in that stage. With Sanabil and Series B, it was more about the market expansion, because now the governance is set up, we have the licenses, now it's about
Interesting.
scaling. So every phase we focused on certain things that we care. Now, if you're a startup who wants to expand into other countries, you might want to bring a VC from that country that can help you with market
I see
expansion.
what you mean. Yeah.
So I think it really it depends on a lot of things. First is, what are your goals that you're trying to achieve? See who can help you. And that not every startup has that luxury, because you might not have a lot of VCs in your space.
Correct.
Or you don't have a lot of options. And in that case, you just take what you get. But if you have the luxury to pick, then of course you want to pick the people who will be able to help you in the next step of your journey.
Amazing. And this is an important story, because each round there's a chasm you have to pass, because you want to prove to your investors you actually pass that chasm
Yep.
to ease your way to growth. But to prepare you when you try to raise rounds for the next chasm or stage, there's another chasm you have to. So it's like it's validation for you, but for investors as well.
Yeah, so it's validation, but also de-risking the business, right?
Absolutely.
So what are you doing? Like, you have certain assumptions or that you're trying to de-risk and validate these assumptions. Like, when we see is this business model works, is crowdfunding and alternative lending works? Would borrowers come online to ask a loan from me? Would retail investors will be willing to give us money? Why would they give this new company money to invest? So a lot of things, like a lot of assumptions. So that was like seed. A was, okay, can we monetize this really well? Can we make money out of this? The unit economics are solid. We got the licensing. Is the company in the right structure to get the license? Okay, all of that is done. B is more about, okay, we know that we did it, the business model works, the model works, the license works, the governance is in place. Can they expand? They can launch new products. Can they go to other markets if needed? Are they ready for IPO? Because each investor is looking at the company as a risk appetite. Like, is the company has de-risked certain areas? If they yes, okay, then I'll put my money. If they still is risky in these areas and we don't know the answers on these one, then it's
So you're gonna have a lot of leverage.
leverage.
Interesting. I meant just to get an introduction, but everybody now know how interesting the model you have,
Yeah.
and it helps a lot of businesses absolutely in growth. We'll continue this story
Oh, yeah.
or the details towards the end. I wanted to give an intro to who you are today, to understand what it takes to get there. And it's not, this model is not replicable necessarily, but the lessons you learned from a lot of entrepreneurs, it kind of give value to understand how these companies are being built. So let's go to the first job you got. I'll give you the freedom to start where.
Yeah, so I was talking about the college. I think just one to close that chapter. I got 2 exchange programs during my undergrad.
While you were at KFUPM.
While at KFUPM,
Okay.
sponsored by the KFUPM. The first one was to UK for summer. It was I was English language.
Okay.
So that was really interesting for me, because the first time I was hanging out with other kids, mostly European, who were there to learn also English. So we had French, German, Russian, other Saudis as well. But it was a really good exposure, and really opened my mind. And we used to get into arguments and we discuss a lot of topics. So I had a friend who was atheist. I don't understand why he's atheist, why he doesn't believe. And so different discussions, open-minded, like, so that was really good exposure for me at that age, that, okay, there are different kind of people in the world, they think differently, there's nothing correct or bad, but I want to understand different perspectives.
Yeah.
And how you can be tolerant and open mind. And this was how I was raised, like be open minded, listen to other people, be respectful.
Yes.
So that's how, and that created lifelong relationships. So I had really good relationships with those people. The people I attended for the first 3 months. It's a 3 months language here.
Yeah.
The second exchange I had was to University of North Texas.
UNT.
UNT.
Yes.
In Denton.
When
Texas,
Mali Adil Jbeir was a graduate of UNT.
Definitely
Yeah,
UNT. Yeah. And then a lot of professors from KFPM was doing their PhD at UNT as well. So we had so I did like my advanced courses. I think last semester that I had, I did at UNT, and took some extra electives as well. So it was really good in terms of different way. So I when I went there, I really respected KFPM even more.
Yeah.
Because I felt KFPM was a very strong college comparing to UNT, but it was also a different way of teaching. So UNT
Yeah.
focused more on project based, which was also great because I was learning more. KFPM had a lot of projects as well, but this was a little bit more hands-on, but also unique because like my also the classmates was very diverse. So KFPM was very diverse in terms of Saudis. So you find all regions of the
True.
country.
I agree.
Like I met with people from north, from south, from west. Being in Riyadh and Mecca, Medina, I only was exposed to, but in KFPM I was exposed to all kind of Saudis and certain other also from Arab countries. When I was in UNT, I was dealing with Mexicans, African Americans, with Indian American or just Indian and Chinese, and so it was quite different diversity. And then you have to do a project with them. That was a challenging for me.
Interesting.
And we're doing like digital marketing and how do you promotion and different aspects. So it was really, and like we have to put music in the ad and a lot of things where we're not exposed in KFPM. So it was different. Learned a lot from that experience as well. And then I made a lot of good friends from Saudi friends who we went there together, and still many of them are my friends till today. That was my story of KFPM. And then so I did a co-op then. The first job I had was...
Before you go to the job, I wanted to mention about KFPM because I was a student at KFPM too, and I thought it was the hardest college ever.
It is.
And when I came to the US, there was a lot of colleges, and they were not in the level of how hard it was. And I always thought KFPM focused on theory more. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I mean, I think it is a hard university, but it's hard in a sense of discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
It's a very highly disciplined university. And also it focuses, it's strong on theory. There's some application. I think computer science or software engineering, they're a little bit more applied than other majors.
Yeah.
Because you can build softwares and you can experiment with it. So I had some really good projects I did compared to other majors. But overall, yes, it's much more focused on theory as well. And like in KFPM, like if you don't attend, I think 6 classes, you're dismissed. In American, they don't take even attendance.
Yeah.
Nobody cared if you can't attend it or not. So it was really.
So the drive was different.
The drive was different. The way you think about it was different. So I think this installed a lot of discipline in the kids at KFPM. I think that was a reason why I think KFPM was way more successful. Not because of education. I think because of that discipline that was installed right within. I remember like if we had National Day holiday, which is a middle of week, we'll not take the classes any day, but then on Saturday on the weekend we just take the same classes. There's no thing called vacation at KFPM. Right? So
you're gonna make it up.
You have to make it up. And so it was very disciplined university in that sense.
Absolutely. Now let's go back. So you graduated your first job.
So I went to Ernst & Young EY and the IT advisory.
And that was co-op.
It was a 7 months full-time job.
Yeah.
Because I did it in the end, so it was just full-time job. The focus was for me, I got exposed to consulting. Consulting was really interesting to me.
How did you hey, I want to go, what was the idea? Did one of your cousins was a consultant, a friend?
No, all of my family is in family business. Nobody.
You're the outlier.
I'm the outlier. This is the first job. Anybody in my family, I was the first person to get a job. So I went to EY. I think I liked EY was a very strong brand name at that time.
Of course.
Let's wait. Yeah. And so then we had let them go. So we had focus.
There's a fire somewhere.
Yeah.
Hope
So-
all is well. Okay.
Yeah, so it was in Faisalia Tower. It was very new, fancy buildings. Like, okay, I want to go to EY, see the experience, and then just through research, they came on campus as well. So they had on campus
Like a career fair.
career fair. So
Okay.
I got exposed to them through career fair. Did my interviews, got accepted in, and I loved consulting. It has this. In 7 months that I was there, I did, I think, 3-4 different projects, and one with Ministry of Defense, one with Saudi Electric Company, one with Saudi Municipality Authority or Ministry. So I had like 3-4 different
Totally different disciplines.
yeah, different environments, different cultures, different type of projects, all in IT sector. So one was building the new IT information department. One was more on building a system for them and website and like analyzing a lot of regulations and how we can make it digital. Defense was more, they wanted to consolidate different technologies. So some part of the defense was using Microsoft, some part was using Oracle, some part was using, so how we can consolidate the IT departments of the ministry at the ministerial level. It was all about different kind of framework. I think Saudi Electricity was about smart grids, how they were thinking about some smart grid strategy, how we're going to develop. So it was within my field, but it was completely different than what I learned in the college. Completely different than what I thought the information system work or MIS work would be in reality. So there was like, okay, at that time I knew like, okay, what I studied doesn't matter.
It's just a foundation.
Just a foundation.
Yeah.
And then, but it was a really good experience. So I loved the strategy. I loved the consulting work, but I felt it was limiting me just to IT.
Okay.
I want to go broader because my idea was like I want to go back to family business at some point and have that experience somewhere else. And also, my cousins who went immediately after college with family business, the perception was not that good because they always thought, oh, you're that kid who used to play bicycle, and now you're here and you're gonna teach me what to do. Like, so there was not enough respect. So I was like, okay, no, I need to go learn, and they might have some value because I didn't know
Yeah.
much, right? So
They
might
have to teach you. Maybe that's the part where, you know.
Yeah, so I wanted to just go learn somewhere else and then come back to
Come
them
back,
saying,
okay.
look, now I know, let me help and develop the family
Yes.
business rather than I'm going there and listening every day. Nobody's
scratch,
yeah,
correct,
and
yes.
nobody's taking me seriously, nobody listening to me.
Okay.
So that I thought about, okay, let me go get a job somewhere else. My dad was not happy about it in the beginning, but then he came around and he thought that experience outside the business was much better for me. So what happened? Yeah, so then I applied. At that time, the largest consulting company in the region was Booz and Company.
Okay.
They just split it away from Booz Allen Hamilton and Booz Company. So Booz Allen Hamilton was focusing on defense consulting, and then Booz was everything else other than defense. So that split happened, and then Booz and Company was. So I joined them. They had 700 consultants at that time in this in Middle East region. I joined them in Riyadh and then eventually moved to Dubai, and that was really, really interesting.
How long you worked with for them?
I did roughly 4 years.
4 years.
4 years, and I enjoyed the first 2 years and hated the second 2 years.
Let's talk about that. So you started in Riyadh, you moved to Dubai.
Yeah.
Lessons learned, things you like and didn't like.
Yeah, so management consulting, which is like they say the top tier consulting, which is MBB, McKinsey, BCG, Bain, and Booz. And so these are the top consulting firms in the world. In the region, the largest was Booz. McKinsey was very small at the time.
Okay.
BCG, Bain didn't even had offices. And in 2011, when I joined them, there was not a lot of Saudis in strategy consulting. Like I think the whole sector there were only 10 or 12 Saudis. So it was a very new to Saudis, generally speaking, and learned a lot from them. So I learned again work ethics, long hours, structured thinking, problem solving, financial modeling, slide creation, client relationship management, client dealing. So learned great deal of different topics. Delegating without authority, of course, public speaking and presenting, conflict management and resolution, negotiation.
A lot of broad.
A lot of like skill set that is transferable to other sectors.
Absolutely.
Dealing with ambiguity, every project was different. I did so I was more focused on TMT, which is telco, media, and tech. But I did some public projects, some public sector, defense, construction, industry. But mainly I was TMT focused. So every sector was new, and I did every sort of strategy you can think of. I did corporate strategy, business unit strategy, sales, marketing, operation, go-to-market, market expansion, transformation, like every sort of strategy. I've worked on a lot of strategy projects. It was a very good exposure. But it was crazy hours, crazy working hours, weekends.
Like how many hours a day?
So I remember we used to go 9:30 to office, and then we come back from the client at 5:30. Then we take a rest, and then come back to office at 6:37 and stay until 1 to 2 a.m.
Wow.
every single day.
Wow.
So that was
So how was your family with it? Like, do you remember like there was a story of you
yeah. So I
should-
remember my first day at the job was really funny story. I still remember it clearly. So I went to the like I was being the first day, being good boy. I went there at 8:30, and there was nobody there, like just janitors cleaning. and I was like excitedly waiting, and then at 9ish, the office manager opened the door, and I was just waiting there, so excited. And she got scared why I'm there at 9 a.m. And then they gave me on my laptop all the stuff, and then I met with my manager at like 9:30. She gave me a lot of slides to read all of this material, and then we're gonna catch up later in the day. And then 3 p.m. I was like, what I'm gonna do? I had lunch, and then I just waiting like when he gonna come. The manager was like, I said, yeah, chill down. I was talking to the office manager, what's happening? He's like, yeah, chill down here. And then he came back at 5:30 and said, okay, what did you read? It's like, yeah, I read most of the slides. Like, I'm caught up what's happening. And then he said, okay, fine. I'm gonna just change my suit and come back in a few minutes. And after an hour, he came back. I think at 6:37, and then he said, okay, tell me about yourself. What do you do? What your experience is? We started talking until like 8. We got to know each other. He told me he was the manager at that time on that project. And he said, okay, at 8 p.m. I'm gonna introduce you to the team members.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. And my parents are calling me, where are you? What are you doing?
They're
Why you're not
worried.
back home? They were so worried. Like, why are you? So introduced me to my team members, and then they gave me he introduced me to the direct manager. I sat with him. He gave me the task, and it was like at 10:30, and I told them, guys, like, I'm here until from 8:30 since morning. I'm pretty tired, so I can leave. I said, yeah, you can leave. So I left at 11 p.m. and they told me from tomorrow come between 9 and 9:30, and that was if I'm not mistaken, that was the earliest I ever left the office was 11 p.m.
Wow.
So this was my first day.
So you, after 2 years, you feeling like.
Yeah, after 2 years I was.
How
burned
did you
out.
like if your first day was like this and your parents were worried?
Yeah.
Motivations to continue was, I guess, different projects. It's very challenging. You have a lot of projects starting from
Yeah.
scratch, learning a know-how. It's exciting. So
Yeah.
2 years, then burnout.
Yeah, in 2 years I was extremely burnt out. I at that time this concept of burnout
Nobody
knew. So I
Yes.
was like I was just tired.
There was something wrong. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there was something wrong. I was just tired all the time. I was not excited. Look, in the beginning, travel was exciting. We're traveling almost every weekend. We're staying in fancy hotels. We had like really good food and perks. And I was learning a lot. But after 2.5 years, I was starting
Became
getting
redundant,
tired.
yeah.
And so I thought, so I started thinking, okay, what's next for my career? What I want to do? Should I go back to my family business now, or? And I always had this goal that I want to go do my MBA or masters. So yeah, then what happened is that so I always had a goal to do my masters, and a lot of my managers at Booz was Harvard graduates, Stanford, LBS, INSEAD, MIT. So a lot of top Ivy League MBA school graduates, and I looked at them and said, okay, I want to get MBA from top school. So I was like, okay, what is required? So I was looking at the requirements, at least you need 3 to 4 years experience. They don't accept like 2 years experience. So it's okay. I need to bear this for another 2 more years, but also I need to start preparing. So I think in my third year I started studying for GMAT. I studied. I took a 1 week off. Tried to study at home, but my parents were so happy that I was at home, so I couldn't study at all. So I did my first exam. I didn't do well, and then I took a month off. I think, yeah, a month off. I went back to KFPM. I left Riyadh. One of my friends used to work at Aramco, so I stayed at his apartment, and every morning I would just go to library
Library, yeah.
at KFPM and just study GMAT all day. So I did like for a month. This is it. Just in the library in the morning, come back, go to gym, something, relax, take a nap. At night, go back to KFPM. Just this was what I was doing for a whole month, and then I studied, and then I took an exam and I got a really good score, and then I applied to top universities, and I got accepted to Duke, LBS, and decided to come to US rather than going to London.
Okay.
So, and then the day I got my acceptance, I resigned. Same day.
I'm out.
I'm out. So I resigned too early. There was still 6 months until my college starts, but the day I got accepted, I resigned.
So how was these 6 months? Were you able to sit down?
No, definitely not.
Right.
Like once you become workaholic, like that 4 years when we do much workaholic, so I had to find something to do.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, he had a startup in e-commerce, and he was struggling with in huge inventory, and so I joined his startup for 6 months, and so I joined as a data scientist, and I did a lot of data models for them, and I analyzed their inventory, did something called ABC analysis, which is like classifying fast-moving items, slow-moving items, non-moving items, and build a strategy. Okay, fast-moving, you need to put more money into that.
Okay.
Slow-moving, you need to do some promotions to get it out. Non-moving, you just need to
Eliminate
them, sell them in another market, and then never buy them again. And then you can analyze what categories, subcategories are working, why should you order, what are the trends. So they implemented more strategies on first the data analysis, the second aspect into the buying strategy, what should buy, what shouldn't buy. And so it helped in that, and then I built a model so he can use it even after I leave.
So
Yeah.
they had data, they just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they had a lot of data for sure, but didn't know what to do with it.
And they brought the consultants.
So worked there. It was really fun. I enjoyed the startup.
Before we go to the Duke, I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
So apparently, who was listening to the story would think your parents were, had the money, so you didn't have to work hard or work a lot. Tell me a challenge and an opportunity. Like, why do you work so much? Why do you work hard, although you don't need to?
So I think first of all, my personality is that I was driven by challenge and curiosity. So what motivates me is solving problems and challenge. If I don't find a challenge, I get bored. The second thing, I worked most of my life. It doesn't like my family had money, but we also had really bad. It's business. You have up times and you have slow
Downtowns, yeah.
Downtime. I remember growing up, like one time my parents were arguing that we couldn't afford to buy milk.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we had some really bad years, and the other years we were traveling.
Just like any other business.
Like any other business,
Ups
right?
and downs,
So
yeah.
there are ups and downs. So you cannot rely just because you have some money. Tomorrow you might not have it.
Yes.
So you have to really think about that. And I saw that firsthand after 9/11, 2001. I saw it in 2003.
Oh, the dip in the gold
the
markets.
gold market,
Yeah.
the crashes that happened. So a lot of different times I saw that firsthand how businesses sometimes you don't have money. So, but we always grew and we maintained certain lifestyle, but also knew like we are humble. We manage our life in a way that we can afford to go to a high-end restaurant or a high-end, but we're also happy to eat full intamis with one riyal. We enjoy that as we enjoy any fancy food. So we lived that kind of life, and that's very common in Saudi, right? We wear thobe, right? So there's no difference between rich and poor. Like we all live in the same lifestyle, live, eat same food. So there wasn't equality was very high in Saudi. So we all lived in the same society. What motivated me to work was not because I didn't thought about I have money or not, but I thought about what motivates me the most is solve challenging problems
Interesting.
and curiosity, and that was what I enjoyed the most. And surprisingly, this 6 months turned out to be extremely valuable later in my life.
How?
So after I finished Duke, I went to Amazon,
Okay.
and I only applied to two companies, Amazon and Google, and I got in US, and I got a job at Amazon. And one of the things why they looked at my CV, that 6 months that I did at e-commerce in Saudi was way more relevant to them than my consulting experience.
Interesting.
So all of their interviews was about e-commerce. How do you think about expansion? How would you acquire? At that time, we had Souk. So the interviewer asking me, would you acquire Souk or not? How do you think about it? So very, very interesting time. So that you never know. Like
That was the reward.
That was the reward after that. So it came out to
Yeah.
be very useful for me later in my career.
You paid it forward.
Definitely,
Interesting.
and then yeah.
Amazon, how many interviews until you got in?
I had 6 interviews with Amazon.
Wow. Okay.
2 interviews each. 2 interviewer like back to back, and
Okay.
then I think in 3 different days. It was very interesting interviews, and then there's a lot of prep that they have to do. They focus a lot on their values, so you need to know their values and you need to prepare stories to back up with these values. So that's the prep you do for Amazon interviews.
Interesting.
And I went there as a senior product manager.
And this was in Seattle.
That was an HQ in Seattle. Yeah. So I learned from that experience, but I wasn't happy. I didn't like the environment. I think it's a great environment. It just wasn't a good culture fit
For you.
me. Yeah.
What I heard is, for example, Microsoft. I did go to Bellevue, Microsoft,
thanks, okay.
Bellevue or Seattle. I don't remember.
Redmond.
Redmond, yeah. So I went their campus. I had that year, and so I went to campus and asked people basically who work there and said we love working for Microsoft. They give us the
Perks,
exchange for
yeah.
and perks. They still give you public transportation. You had this environment of agile meetings and sections were talking to each other. So if you're talking about Azure or you're talking about Skype, you can talk to managers across the board. And Amazon, it was vertical. Each department was siloed by itself, and there's no cross training, especially in promoting, like promotion and Microsoft. You need like another department's VPs need to promote you to go higher levels. When Amazon was more vertical, so maybe people work in different environments. But
I had few friends at Microsoft. So Microsoft was very meeting culture. Like they had so many meetings. They had a lot of perks, free lunch. They had. Amazon was frugal. There was nothing free. They don't get
Interesting.
There's nothing free. There was no perks, nothing.
So customer service was only outside.
Yeah, outside. And then what happened is that, and you work like individually, like even not in. You have a team, but you're working each one working on their own project. So you're responsible on your own work. There's a high accountability and ownership. So they don't know exactly what are you doing, what are you responsible, and it's a failure of a one person, not of a team, and then success of a team, right? So there's like very high Microsoft, like nobody's accountable. Like okay, if you fail, who's failing? Like we don't know. So that was a different culture. The other aspect was in Amazon was there's something called bar raiser. So he will come and assess you. So I was in Amazon Marketplace. So someone from outside of Marketplace, Amazon Fresh, Amazon Kindle, any other business unit will come and assess, talk to my manager, and they will have something called bar raiser. And his job to assess, am I better than 50% employees of Amazon or not?
Wow.
And if I'm not better than 50% employees, then
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Interesting.
So that's a bar raiser kind of a concept.
That was at Jeff Bezos' time, right?
Yeah, at that time, Jeff Bezos was still the CEO. Yeah.
Yeah, Seattle was hot at that time because you had what, Boeing, you had Amazon, you had Microsoft in the same city, Starbucks first store in the same city.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so what happens after Amazon?
So I finished Duke. I did Amazon. My family was like, my mom was like, you need to get married.
Of course.
you need to come back.
Part of the culture.
Part of the culture.
Yeah.
So I wanted to move back, but I needed a job. I was broke by the time I finished Duke. I didn't have much money. All my savings went away. And so So while I was in US, while I was in Amazon, I had a startup idea called Salasa. So I came back for Christmas break and met with my co-founders, Hassan Abdul Majid, and the idea was we want to create the first warehouse fulfillment management for e-commerce companies. Very similar in US, like you have fulfilled by Amazon.
Correct.
Yeah, so you have a you have a warehouse where you have all the stock and you package and deliver it. We wanted to create same thing, but for other e-commerces.
Okay.
So build the infrastructure for other e-commerce.
Was there any business model like that in Saudi then?
No, they were the first.
You guys are the first
to do this.
Interesting.
In Saudi Arabia to have e-commerce fulfillment.
Where does the name come from, Salasa? Like from Celis?
Yeah, from Celis.
Interesting,
Yeah,
Salasa. Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, so Salasa
so
as a concept.
That idea came up. Salasa. I went back to US after Christmas break, working on the pitch deck, financial model. Went to visit few warehouses, e-commerce warehouses in US as a benchmark to learn what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and then I saw how much money I have. I put it all in the company, so I don't have any money left because there was no concept of seed funding, all that.
Bootstrap.
It was bootstrap in the beginning. There's no investors.
There's angels, family, friends, I guess.
So my dad, I asked my dad if he could put some money. So he gave me some money, very small amount, but he put it with me. And then we talked to a lot of angels. Like there was no concept of angels at that time. Finally, we met with one of the great guys, and our seed round was $400,000.
Mashallah.
That was
the big deal back then.
At that time was a huge deal. 400K. So that was almost a year after we launched.
So a year after you launched. So MVP, how many months did it take y'all to do MVP?
So it took us a lot of time because we had to rent a warehouse, we have to build all the shelves.
Because there was hardware.
It's a hardware and capex infrastructure we have to build. So it took us like 6, and then the biggest issue was getting electricity. So it took us it was like 6 months to get electricity.
So sunk cost was high because of the warehouse. Now, for a lot of people, the SaaS model, the building the software is hard, especially for non-software. What is your advice for entrepreneurs? So I met Layla Sheikhli through a friend, and we talked about Layla Sheikhli has Y Systems in Boston.
Okay.
They do last mile.
Nice.
And I was building a startup, and I had a lot of issues, and I talked to her, and she said this: look, you are way too far. You should build an MVP within 3 months, and you should launch with minimal products, test them, and then get feedback and improve. I didn't know that. I worked on my startup for a year and 2 months, and most of it was struggling to get a developer. So a lot of people say hire a CTO or as a co-founder. Somebody said no, delegate to East to people from India or from West Europe. How do we approach this as entrepreneurs?
So you need to definitely do MVP in the cheapest, fastest way, and it depends what are you doing. So I believe there are 2 type of businesses in tech. One is you're selling a technology itself. So what are you doing? You're selling a SaaS, you're selling APIs, you're selling something. So your product is a technology. The other is your product is a traditional business enabled by technology that is fast growing. So what I mean by that, in Lendo, we are a lending business. And at the end of the day, we are a lending business, or we're a platform. We're a platform business, but it's lending enabled by a platform. So what you need to do, I'm not selling the platform to you. So I can take a white label platform, test out my model. If it works, great. Then I can replace that white label and build my own technology and customize it and grow it. But to test it, you don't need to build it. You can just take off the shelf white label and launch something and see if the model, because you want to test the model if it works or not. Same thing with Salasa. What we did, we had a last mile company, and then we asked the customers of the e-commerce customers who were delivering with us, would you like to store some products with us and have a storage? And they said yeah. So within the office, like a small office like this, we just put a couple of shelves and then start storing the product. So we know the model was working. No, of course, this is not a business. We have to actually get a warehouse, but we just wanted to test what customers were willing to buy. And then we wanted to develop a software, our own software warehouse and management system, order management system. And because we looked for something off the shelf, we couldn't find anything. So we wanted to design our own, build our own. And I was talking to one of the VCs in North Carolina because at Duke I was the co-president of the Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Club.
So you had your network already.
So I had a network of VCs in North Carolina, in Austin, and also in the Bay Area. And so he was saying he didn't believe in the fulfillment business. He said, look, fulfillment businesses are dying in US, Amazon is expanding. So he said, I invested in a company that has a fulfillment business. They built their own software, and they sold the fulfillment, the business, but they kept the software.
Okay.
And they're giving it SaaS. Why don't you talk to the founder? So I talked to the founder, and we talked the SaaS software from him for our own business, and we in Saudi, and we started expanding.
Interesting.
That's how. Otherwise, we were originally planning to build our own,
we should have taken a long time.
which would have taken a long time to launch. So this we were able to launch really fast, and of course, over the long term, we ended up replacing that software, but
Because you did not code, so there's a lot of stuff you cannot add. Yeah, of course.
But at least in the beginning, it was
market validation at
market
least.
validation, expansion,
fast
and
launch.
everything.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that's how I ended up. So this was happening on Salasa side, but I needed a job. So my two co-founders were full time, but I was getting married. I needed a job. I needed some way to pay my bills. So what ended up happening after I resigned Amazon, but I haven't moved yet back. The only network I knew, I was away from Saudi for now 2.5, 3 years. I didn't know much. I was disconnected. So only people I know is consulting. That's what I used to do. So I talked to McKinsey BCG in the US. I did my interviews with them. Got accepted into McKinsey and moved back to Saudi and Riyadh, McKinsey Riyadh.
So McKinsey, this is 2016, 2017?
Yeah, 2016.
So this is like the beginning of 2030 vision.
Exactly. So it was an oil crash. There's not a lot of jobs.
Activities, okay.
And then I was doing with McKinsey, I joined them to work on the vision. I mean, one of the projects on vision.
And it was just starting up too.
It was just starting up.
Interesting. Okay.
So it was a good time to join, come back. I did it for maybe 9 months. And I hated it really because I remember all the back memories.
It's like the trauma is coming back. Yeah.
But this time the consulting was different. So the work we were doing was way more impactful.
Okay.
The clients were listening way more because of the vision projects. Like things that we are seeing were getting implemented. So the impact was very high. And then it used to be
high impact. Okay.
High impact, much better clients. And then really delivering on and executing on what we are saying. So it was like, so that was really interesting and exciting about me. But it was the same thing again, like long hours, working crazy hours, traveling a lot. And I wanted to focus on the startup, not on job, but I needed a salary. So then I decided, so McKinsey had a really good program, like you can take a sabbatical or you can take unpaid leave. So I took unpaid leave, focused on Salasa full time, and then we did a round. We closed the $400,000 seed round, and then we hired a bigger team. Okay. So then it got a little bit more stable at that time. And then I got a job at Misk Foundation in Riyadh as head of innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay. So consulting the vision and now with Misk, like I feel like you have lived through building era.
Yeah.
Looking back at what happening today in Saudi and Neom, Red Sea project, Murabba, and all of this growth. If I told you all this is going to be happening, would you believe me back then?
I wouldn't believe it. Even though I was
they were like in the middle of it, right?
I didn't believe that. Like I didn't thought that we can execute and develop so much in so little time. That's
leadership with the Samu Sayyid Wali al-Ahd and the Misk and the vision. Tell people what is Misk. Like a lot of people don't know what Misk is.
So Misk was his Royal Highness's personal foundation.
Okay.
Backed by his personal money.
Non-profit,
non-government. So government doesn't have any influence, but because it was so I joined them as an employee number 10, 12, something like
Oh
that.
wow, like
Very early.
Okay.
However, Misk was there since 2011.
Okay, so it was there before.
It was there, but it was like doing much smaller scale projects.
Like
and
policy, maybe trying to
very
figure
small
out.
project,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
TEDx Saudi, like TEDx kids. So it's very small projects. But in 2017, when I joined them, it's just about they got a lot of funding, and it was like, okay, we're gonna make it. So the idea what Misk at that time was, we saw the vision what's happening, and we said, okay, how we can enable youth to be participating within that vision. And so we focused, the mission of the foundation was on development of youth. And we wanted to develop the next leaders in the country. We wanted to educate them. We wanted to build the next talent across what is needed. And being non-government, we had that agility we can do things really fast. And so we were taking certain points of the vision and implementing it within the Misk. So the first program I did was how we can get Saudis into top companies as an internship program. And we did an internship program in US, in Germany, in London.
London. My brother actually worked in. He's master's in material science.
Yeah.
He worked for 3D company printing parts for airlines in London through the program you provided. So you should thank him. I'm telling my brother Ali, you should thank him for the program. Absolutely.
You're welcome. And it was very passionate because when kids came back and they said you changed our lives.
Of course.
So we had the great. So this was very impactful. And the idea was at that time, look, we're gonna get into innovation, we're gonna get into entrepreneurship, we're gonna get into new sectors in the country, but we don't have talent for it. And all the international companies that are highly innovative, but their innovation was not in the country. They have only marketing and sales teams.
Yeah, I see.
But their innovation is happening in Palo Alto or in another country.
Yeah.
So the idea was we're gonna send people to their businesses, but in the core business. So we're sending engineers into Cisco.
I see what
we're
you're
sending
saying.
accountants into EY. We're sending journalists, not to the PR team in Cisco, but I'm sending journalists to Bloomberg and Arab News and other news agencies. So we're sending people in the core business.
Yes.
And to get that experience.
And
at the beginning it was we were paying, but then the companies were willing to pay for their salaries. And we didn't have any conditions like you want to stay in that country, you can live in that country. You want to move back, you can move back.
Whatever opportunity knocks its door.
knocks your door, no conditions attached.
So let me tell you a success story of Ali. So Ali he graduated from USC in California, got the job, went to London even before he finished graduation, worked 3 months, got back and started his startup with Entrepreneurship Institute at KFUPM.
MashaAllah.
Finished, I think it was program 3 months, and he still works on the side, but I believe so. I'm not sure if he paused it or not, but every now and then in the weekends he work on it. But now he's in NEOM.
Wow.
And every time we talk, you know what he tells me? If it wasn't for Misk London internship, he would never have the confidence to continue and pursue these doors. So this is a success for Misk programs, a success for the vision for the country. And thank you guys for actually providing this. This is absolutely amazing.
This was the enablement of the leadership. To be honest with His Royal Highness, he really enabled us to go do these projects. Give us the funding to do such a thing, and we can see like we built the talent that became now deputy ministers and became really high positions, whether entrepreneurial, governmental, implemented a lot of these ideas. And we didn't just we did across sector, right? Not just the tech, but we were doing art. So we launched Misk Art Academy.
Yes,
an art first time in the country. We were doing enablement of artists. And that was, even we did the first event of Misk Art, we were expecting maybe 5,000-10,000. 80,000 people attended that event.
Wow. How long this event is?
It was like 4 days event, but we were expecting 5,000-10,000 people.
80,000
attended that event. And it's like, okay, we are onto something.
Yeah.
How we can enable art. And so we started enabling art and artists, and we brought international artists teaching local artists with collaborations. And that's where slowly Ministry of Culture got created, and and then some of our employees and some of our artists
Went there.
went there.
Okay.
And this is how we created a whole new ministry in the country.
Interesting.
And then we did a lot of programs on video game development with
Which now there's like a championship.
now there's a esports championship.
Yeah, esports. Yeah.
And there's a lot of this was the seed of a lot of things that were going to happen in 2-3 years, but we're doing it immediately.
MashaAllah.
And the same thing with what my mandate was building the startup ecosystem. So we brought in 500 startups. They're plug and play, Techstars. We did a program with Stanford to teach VCs and angel investors so we can create angel and VCs in the country. We did a lot of programs.
Oh, that's VC Unlocked?
VC Unlocked, yeah.
Through
So
Sanabel, I think.
we did it at that time, Misk, sponsored by SVC, Saudi Venture Capital Authority, yeah.
Okay, not Stevie. I was
No,
confused.
SVC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you know what I'm excited about? I know this subject is very exciting. Misk City. So what is I really don't know. Like, what is the story? What's going on?
So the idea at that time, His Royal Highness wanted to create the first non-profit city.
Okay.
I was like, I want to create a first So again, in the country in Saudi Arabia, there was not a lot of non-profit going on. The non-profit was about in Saudi the mentality. There's a lot of philanthropy work, but
Not in a structured way.
Not in a structured way. Very limited in the scope. So the scope was okay. I'm gonna build a mosque in Saudi or outside Saudi. I wanna رعاية أيتام. So I wanna do for orphans. But that's the limit of the philanthropy was happening. They're not saying okay, I'm gonna take someone and educate him. I'm gonna take someone and pay for his health.
Like a long-term vision.
A long-term vision. So the very limited scope of philanthropy, and then His Royal Highness, okay, there is many ways of doing philanthropy, and let's expand that. And he wanted to build a non-profit city called Misk City, and the biggest building in that city was supposed to be the Misk Innovation, the innovation department, which I was leading. So we designed a super innovation entity. I'm not sure if now the plans have changed.
I've read 2 days ago Misk School is open now.
Yeah, so Misk School. So Misk School was a new innovative way of teaching. So we're doing a lot of innovation in education within the schools.
Interesting.
And the idea was like, what would work here? We can take it to Ministry of Education
and like
implement
make it
across
interesting. Who's I don't know if you know the answer, but who is the architecture firm that actually designed the whole city? Or there's more than one?
So there's more than one. So we did an open competition.
Okay.
We invited, I think it's a Swedish or Netherlands company.
Not Norwegian. Swedish or okay, no.
Yeah, I don't remember it. Maybe it could be Norwegian. I don't remember. So there's a one for the city design itself. Then there's certain buildings. So school is one. Misk Innovation.
So it's a big project, yeah.
Misk Museum, which is going to be the first science and natural science.
Oh,
history.
that's awesome.
Yeah, science and natural history museum.
How many years is this project?
It's
a long-term.
It's a long-term project, but yeah, the His Royal Highness is very pushy. Like he wants to get it done today.
Awesome, yeah. I was at Misk in December.
Yeah.
And I met great people. They showed me around, and I asked them about the city. Like, it's not ready yet, but there's like an event. But I was happy when I read the school is ready. Now let's go back. I know we've been off track, but this is dear to our hearts, I guess. Now, where were we? We were at Salasa.
Yeah.
And Series 1, you raised 400,000. What's next?
So what happened is that I joined Misk doing all this amazing project, but it was not a lot of time intensive. So I had a lot of time. Salasa is 6 days a week because of the operation. So I used to work at night, also on Saturdays at Salasa. And then it was helping them grow, but in day-to-day operations work. So focus on pricing strategy, fundraising, new ideas, new products, these kind of aspects where you don't need day-to-day involvement. I tried to do day-to-day, but it wasn't working out with my other full-time job.
Okay.
So focus on these kind of aspects, and we thought a lot about what strategy, partnerships, these kind of aspects. Then we raised Series A. I think it was $6 million, $5 or $6 million. And when we raised Series A, the investor told me, Osama, you cannot be a part-time co-founder. You have to be either full-time, or you have
so you're in or you're out.
Yeah, you're in or out. Or you have to invest some of your equity, give it back to the founders, and you can still be a shareholder, support the guys. So I decided to leave my Misk job and then go join full time.
Okay.
But the folks at Misk
Oh,
they
there's
didn't
a
want
but.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't want me to leave. So
So you stayed.
So I stayed at Misk.
And you left Salasa.
And then I left Salasa.
Okay.
But I left Salasa and I'm still a shareholder. I'm still
Okay.
supporting the
You,
guys.
you just you're
Yeah.
not like okay.
I'm not there working as a full time or part time anymore.
Yeah, startup is like 3 o'clock in the morning. There's an issue. Come right now.
Exactly, exactly. So once we got the funding, it's at like so they understood why before
Okay.
funding, but like after funding, they said no. Now you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Um, so that was the story. Now, once that happened, I was like, okay, I'm no more longer day to day involved or anything. I'm here to support the guys in any way I can. But I don't know what to do with extra time.
Yeah, I
remember
get back to square one.
Back to square one. Like
Yeah.
I remember my workaholic days. I need to work
Yeah.
a second job or figure out something else. And so I wanted to do another startup. I wanted to do something like join full time, and I planned ahead for it. So I saved 1 years of my expenses. So I had it saved so I can, when I leave, I have some savings that I can support me for 1 year. I had to talk to my wife, to my parents, convince them, guys, I'm going to leave. But before that, so I was planning ahead. I didn't know what idea, what startup would be, but I was planning myself. Okay, I'm going to do something new. And then I met with my co-founder, Ahmed. We did, he pitched me the Lendo's crowdfunding idea and doing this and doing invoice financing. And I saw that problem firsthand. So when I was in Misk, we were like very small, 10, 15 employees. I talked to a vendor, another small medium business. We agree on a pricing. We agree on an email or WhatsApp. He delivers. He gives me an invoice. We go to the accountant. He just pays it. The whole cycle does not take more than 5 days. As we grew in 3 years, we became like 350 employees. And so
350 from
10, 15 employees to 350
in 4 years.
In 3.5 years.
Wow.
So it was it was a startup culture. It was a high growth startup culture. And we had to do a lot of governance. So we had now procurement department, legal, compliance, PMO, all these departments now have to approve that invoice so we can, before we pay to the same vendor. And when it used to take 5 days, now it was taking 3-4 months to get paid.
Wow.
It's not that we didn't have the money. We had the money and everything. It's just the cycle of approvals and processes. It was taking too long.
Interesting. So this is how the idea was born.
This is how the idea was born. Like we're seeing a lot of people are complaining why you're not getting paid, and I was like, okay, I was trying to figure out what's the issue, why they are not able to get paid. Why they I'm unable to pay them. It's just a process issue. But why they cannot take a loan? What's struggling them?
Yeah.
So I asked the permission from Salasa guys and took the CR. And then went to the banks to take a loan for Salasa and to experiment how the process works, because I never took a loan in my life, and I was like, okay, let me see. And it was a horrible experience I had. It took me 6 months to get any answer. A lot of back. Wow. Like you have to go to the branch, you have to apply, fill out so many forms. The form has to be filled in blue ink. You cannot fill it in black ink. They send you a follow up, and then the RM will come in. It was a really bad experience. There's no clarity on that process, what exactly the process is, what form are you going to ask me. Every time they're going to just ask me a new form. So it was really messy. And after all this, you just get rejected. So I was like, okay, this has to be disrupted. This is a very primitive way of doing SME financing or lending. So that's where Mohammed and I decided to okay, let's do crowdfunding. We're gonna do invoice financing, receivable, factoring. In US they call it factoring. We're gonna do this because there's small cycle. So in 3 to 4 months, usually the loans get paid.
Yeah.
So we learn fast, and it's usually low risk. We know exactly when you're gonna get paid from. So it's not a lot of risk. And third aspect was. The third aspect was the central bank allowed fintech. So one of my friends tried to open a fintech back in 2015, 2016. He did a startup in Bay Area, and then he moved back and he wanted to do fintech. And central bank was against fintech. They didn't want to have any fintech. So when Vision came in, Vision 2030, the changes started happening in
digital transformation is part of it. Yeah.
And then So central bank opened a sandbox environment to allow fintech to operate without regulation, like without changing the current regulations, because the regulation takes time. And that opportunity was great because then we can go apply to sandbox and open fintechs. And so we applied in the first batch and we got accepted. And that's the story of how Lendo got started.
Okay. First batch within.
Within the central bank sandbox environment.
Okay. So central bank actually supports startups.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Great. That is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Wow. So basically, you solved a problem you actually lived through.
Yeah, definitely. My co-founder lived through the same problem from being a supplier. I lived it from being a buyer. And we
Okay.
saw like how this problem existed. The opportunity came in. The current ecosystem is not efficient. It's really inefficient. The SME, and then in the Vision 2030, there were clear targets. So they have one of the programs under the vision is Financial Sector Development Program, and they have KPIs. In 2018, the SME lending was only 4% of all commercial lending, and they had a target that by 2030 it has to reach to 20%. So SME lending is growing from 4 to 20%. That's exactly the Vision 20, and so every government agency gonna support us to achieve that target.
I see what you're
and
saying.
and so the market gonna grow by 5x. So it's a huge market that there is that we can capture. The regulators are supportive. The market is supportive. We just need to launch such a business and capture it.
I like the idea when you said the 2030 plan had this in it. So for all the startup out there, it's a great idea to look at the 2030 plan, see where the targets are, and maybe build something in parallel with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the best call for startup document you can read, right?
Yeah.
Open the Vision 2030, see all the programs, see what's your sector. Because if your startup's goals are aligned with the Vision 2030 goals, then every government agency just want to support.
Absolutely,
You're
yeah.
helping them to achieve their KPIs.
Yes.
Right? So they want to help you because
Yeah.
by helping me, we're helping each other, right? We're achieving their KPIs. So like, this is where it's a call for startup, and we saw that there's a gap, and then we came in, and now we're helping. And this applies across biotech, across agri-tech,
Any
across
other disciplines?
edtech,
Okay.
fintech, all kind of tech like there's an alignment on that, so you can, and there's a lot of need for businesses to get created, startups to get created to support the Vision 2030.
Amazing. Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I don't know if I forgot anything. Time went by. I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Is there anything, before I ask you the identity capital question, and then after that we close, is there anything you want to talk about, something I missed?
So yeah, I think maybe we didn't cover a lot on my MBA experience, but
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. At the
At Duke.
Duke. Yeah.
that was best 2 years of my life.
Interesting. Why?
I had a really great experience at Duke. It was a really good college. I learned a lot.
What is the difference between Duke and KFPM? In a constructive way.
Tricky question.
And in a constructive way.
Duke was a different experience. I think it was very, because especially MBA, not other masters, because it's a very professional degree. It's very practical, taught by
Private school too.
It's a private school.
Ivy
taught-
League, right?
It's Ivy League. Taught by industry practitioners. So all my professors were
That's a game changer, yeah.
were like ex McKinsey, Goldman Sachs. So they were ex like they worked in the field. They understand. They had research, and so it was very very understand, like really so I remember one of the professors was real estate finance, and he used to live in Florida, and he was a big developer. He did a lot of
Wow.
and he used to fly in his private jet, and he
To teach a class.
to
and
teach
then-
a class and
and
go
then
back
fly
to Florida.
back.
And his
Wow.
captain would come with him to the class, sit there, finish the class, and go back.
Interesting.
I had another professor who teaching us strategy. He was a chief strategy officer of Pfizer, and he used to come there and teach us.
Interesting.
So it was a lot of like top talent, like industry practitioners who taught us. So that was very interesting, but also the network
Of course.
that I built,
Yeah.
to the friends I made till today. They are very close friends. I'm meeting all the Duke graduates from my class in Bay Area before I'm gonna leave back to Saudi. I had so many friends from Saudi, so it was a really great network. Also, that's one of the reasons why I got a job in Amazon, because of the degree and the connection they had. So it was really helpful, valuable experience I had. I think that really I was very grateful that I went to top school and learned from there.
So choosing a top school is not a cliche because of the network, the opportunities, the example of the people who actually join the talent. When you have an endowment
Yeah.
that produce a lot of money,
Yeah.
you can hire better talent. So competition system creates this competition between even educational institutions. Like there's rivalry between Harvard and Yale, right?
Yes. So
Yeah,
there was a definite rivalry between Duke, also with other universities as well.
Okay.
And they always say Harvard is the Duke of North, or the other way around.
Oh,
Duke is the
yeah.
Harvard of South. And then, of course, the college basketball rivalry. Duke had one of the top basketball teams.
Teams in terms
And
of-
their coach, which is Coach K, he's one of the best coaches of basketball in the world, and he coached the U.S. national team,
Interesting.
many team, and he has his own book on leadership and management. He's very well known, Coach K.
Are you saying that because you're Duke
Of
graduate?
course.
Awesome.
So, but you can see it's a different culture. Like,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So it was a very good experience. I learned a lot from that experience as well. Yeah.
I'm glad you did. Well, we are thankful for your time coming to the show. We're thankful for all the work you do. I truly enjoyed this conversation. I will ask you the last question, then we'll end up. And the identity capital question is about there is certain lessons in life only learned from experience. You can't learn from books. You can't learn from educational system. What have you learned that stands out you wish you knew earlier in your career?
I think I somehow I knew, but I didn't discover it until late in my life. One of the things that a common theme I had in my life was I did so many things at the same time. Life is short, and I'm very ambitious, but the way I did it, and this is purely like by luck, but the way I did it, I always did it in teams. So I never did anything alone. I remember like going from like if I look at my undergrad, I did a startup with 3 other co-founders. I did a Toastmasters with 7 other officers. I was still getting good grades with startup and a club. So many things at the same time. And then same thing with my MBA. I was co-president of Entrepreneurship Venture Capital Club. I was having a full-time job and doing a startup with Salasa. And then I did Lendo, then launched that. And while I'm doing Lendo, I'm doing other things like in angel investing. So all of the things that I did, I always did in teams. And that because like we build on each other, we leverage each other, we learn from each other, we support each other. And I think that was, and same thing in consulting also, like this is also like, also always you work in teams. So I think leveraging the power of teams and working in collaboration is very important. And that's a common theme I had in my life. I didn't realize it at that time. I reflected on it later in my life. And the way it worked is that just if you want to do individually yourself, you cannot go that far. But I think when you work with a group of
Team.
smart people and teams, 1 + 1 is not 2; it becomes 10.
10, yeah.
And so you need to really leverage on that and build on that so you can achieve more in your life. I think that's the
Absolutely
lesson.
agree. You're a group of people that call you matrix architects, where you work with groups to build ecosystems, like you did with Misk, and achieve great things. You're a generalist in a sense. You can connect the dots between different disciplines, like consultancy.
Yeah.
But there's a saying that says, "Alone you can move fast, but with a team you can move deep." And this is maybe why, entrepreneurship is like a lonely industry, and
It
you
is very
need people
lonely.
around you. So that's why a lot of investors say you need to have a co-founder, right? And you are a proof of that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think if I didn't have my co-founder, I wouldn't have achieved what I've achieved today. It's just it's a difficult journey. It's a long journey, and then you would rather have a partner with you in that journey.
Awesome. Osama, this was wonderful from the heart of Silicon Valley at the Multiverse by Code. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Anytime, and thank you so much, Ahmed, for hosting me.
Absolutely. It is absolutely my pleasure. This was Identity Capital. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank